Hi, this is Maggie. In the last video, we talked about how to change column names and extract column vectors from a data frame in R. In this video, we'll talk about extracting rows and adding observations to a data frame. I'll link the playlist for this introductory R series here and in the description. Let's jump in, and I urge you to follow along with me in RStudio as I work. Pause the video and play around with ideas periodically to make the best sense of them. The scripts that I write for these videos are available in my GitHub repository. There's a link in the description. So here I have the script from the last video, renamed to rows_practice.r, because we're going to edit it and I'll upload the new version. The script downloads a table of data in CSV, or comma-separated values format, from our world in data.org and changes the column names when it reads the data in. It also displays the data frame using the view command. I'm going to delete all of the other code so we can write our new script. Let's run the script now using Control-Shift-Enter. And we can see the data frame in the view window. It has 4 variables, or columns, called entity, code, year, and invest. This table is the amount of money invested in the years between 2017 and 2020 in different categories of artificial intelligence. Let's begin with extracting rows. We'll start with extracting specific rows, and then we'll extract rows based on a criterion, and we'll talk about how that works. Suppose I want the first row. I can extract that using the index 1. So in the console, I'll write AI invest, open square bracket, 1, and then a comma, and then close square bracket. So just like when we extracted a column by specifying all rows with a blank before the comma, then the column, we can extract all columns by specifying the row or rows we want, comma, and then a blank. When I press enter, the result is a data frame, or in our case, a specialized data frame called a tibble, consisting of all of the columns and the one row that we specified. Thus, we have extracted one observation. Now, suppose we want the first 5 observations. I'm going to press the up arrow to get that command back, and instead of simply typing 1 before the comma within the brackets, I'm going to write 1:5. The colon is a shortcut for creating a vector of values, in this case the vector 1 through 5. I press enter, and I get rows 1 through 5 in a data frame and all columns. So I've subsetted my data frame. Let's look at another way we can get just some rows. You might note that in the last operation I passed a vector in for the rows that I want. Those don't have to be contiguous. Let's pass in a vector that is just some rows, let's say 3, 6, and 8. So I will use the up arrow again to get the last command. And this time, instead of the 1:5, I'll write C, open paren, 3, 6, 8, close paren, and press enter. And we get a data frame of 3 rows, and we can confirm by looking at the view of the data that this contains rows 3, 6, and 8. Now let's look at another way to do this. I'm going to assign the data frame of 5 results to a new data frame. So I'm going to write agtech is assigned the value of, or left angle bracket dash, and then AI invest 1:5, comma, and press enter, and then type agtech and press enter, and confirm that we have a data frame of the 5 values we expect. Now we can also index in using a vector of Boolean values. In R, Booleans are true and false with uppercase T and F, or we can abbreviate that as T and F. Let's pass in to select rows a vector of true, false, true, false, true. So I'm going to index into agtech by writing agtech, open square bracket, C, open paren, T, F, T, F, T, close paren, close square bracket, and press enter. And notice that pulled out the 3 values at indices 1, 3, and 5, corresponding to the 3 rows with a T in the Boolean vector. This is a key to how extracting rows with a logical condition works. Suppose I want a data frame that is all of the rows from 2017. Maybe I want to get the average of the amount spent over all AI technologies in a specific year. I might start by extracting the 2017 rows into a data frame. To do that, rather than hard-coding that logical vector by figuring out where all the 2017s are, I can have R make that vector using a logical condition. Here's an example of that vector. If I write AI invest $year equals 2017 and press enter, I get back a vector of true and false values that is the same length as the table AI invest, with a true in the position of each row for which the value in the year column or variable was 2017. We can use that Boolean vector to index into our data frame by writing AI invest, open square bracket, AI invest $year equals 2017, comma, close square bracket. And we get a data frame with the rows extracted according to that Boolean vector. So only the rows in which year is 2017. I know that the command is probably fairly intuitive, but I think it's important to understand how it's working under the hood. Otherwise, it's easy to make syntax errors or do something else entirely and end up with something that executes but gives the wrong result. Note also that the test for equality, the operator that we use when we're comparing, is two equal signs together with no space between. This is the same operator that is used to test for equality in many programming languages such as Python, Java, and C. And we can extract both rows and columns by giving values for rows and columns when we index. So, for example, we could get the first 5 rows minus the empty code column by writing AI invest, open square bracket, 1:5, comma, C, open paren, 1, 3, 4, close paren, close square bracket, and pressing enter. Or, instead of listing the columns we want, in this case it's easier to list the one column we don't want. So, AI invest 1:5, comma, -2. We can list the column or columns we don't want using negation. Now let's talk about how to combine tables that have the same columns. Suppose we are reading in or in some other way creating several tables and they have the same columns in them. We can combine those tables into one using rbind. To illustrate, I've already extracted a table which is the agricultural tech rows. I'll create a table which is the AV rows by writing AV is assigned the value of AI invest, open square bracket, 6 through 10, comma, this time I'll type it right. Now, of course, we could just extract the rows we want. We have to imagine that these are two separate tables that have come from separate sources, and we want to combine them. We simply pass the tables to rbind, and let's reverse the order just to make it a little different from the original data frame. rbind, open paren, AV, comma, agtech, close paren. And you can see the resulting data frame is the AV rows followed by the agtech rows. If you wanted to work further with the data frame, you'd store it in a variable. So that's a little introduction to working with rows in a data frame, and I'll put the code we wrote in the console into rowspractice.r before I upload it. I hope that it's helpful. I suggest you practice with this by downloading this table or one of the other interesting tables from ourworldindata.org, reading it in, and then extracting rows by using literal values and logical values, and maybe save those into data frames and combine them. Have fun with it.